TLDR, what's the difference between power building and cycling, bodybuilding, and powerlifting? I love this question.
Can I ask something?
Go for it.
So just to preface this, I don't know anything about what he's just
This
said.
is exactly who I want to talk to, is people that don't know.
I remember when we were talking about losing fat and building muscle at the same time, and the fact that it's very difficult to serve two masters.
Yeah.
Is this the same in that you cannot do both simultaneously?
Yes.
So when he's doing the power building, he will lose hypertrophy. When he's doing hypertrophy, he will lose some strength.
Let's talk about this in the context of training age.
Okay.
So you're an absolute beginner right here. You're an absolute advanced. You've reached your genetic potential here.
Yeah.
As you go on this journey, things need to become more specific. Because when you are new and detrained and untrained, anything and everything's going to be good. So this is what trips people up as they make the transition from beginner, complete novice to intermediate 1 to 2 years into training, is that when you are a beginner, you can do anything and you will gain strength and you will gain size. It's wild how much that works, how much the body adapts when you are new, when you're introducing novel stimulus. But as you become more proficient in the training style that you have been doing, you will stop making adaptation. Your body's used to it. It's not going to continue to adapt. So this is where people get in trouble. It's like, oh man, it worked for me a while ago. Why can't I just keep doing it?
So is it like you get to the point where you're now an intermediate and you would have to increase the intensity and to continue to make gains, right?
You have to increase any number of those variables.
You have to make it harder to continue.
You have to progressively overload.
So you get to the point where you would have to do so much progressive overload, split two ways, that it would be too much for the body and you would be totally fatigued.
Most
Is that
likely,
what you're
yes.
saying?
Well, there's two mechanisms.
Like
there.
if you're Superman, you could progressively overload in two different directions.
Fatigue is going to be incredibly high if
Okay.
you want to continue the same level of workload that is going to give you the same level of result that you were doing when you were a beginner.
You just can't do it anymore.
Fatigue is going to crush you. The other thing is hypertrophy and strength are trained in different contexts, which is why bodybuilders most of the time are not the strongest guys in the gym because strength is neural. It's neurological. You have to not only have muscle, but you have to train that muscle to be capable of moving at 1 rep max. Does that make sense?
Kind of.
And I'm not using the exact scientific terms here because I'm trying to talk to a general audience. But think of it as you build muscle. Okay, cool. The most effective rep ranges for building muscle, 8 to 20 reps, meaning the relative load, the amount of weight you're using, is going to be a little bit lighter.
Are you talking about building the size of the muscle tissue for hypertrophy?
Yes.
Okay.
That's when I talk about building muscle, I'm talking about
Building size.
bicep was small, now bicep big,
Okay.
right? But then we have to train that bicep to actively engage all of its fibers in a 1 rep max attempt. So when you make that transition from hypertrophy, muscle building, there has to be neurologically, there has to be a training cycle where you work in the 3 rep range, in the 2 rep range, in the 1 rep range for you to express the strength as effectively, right? So again, you're serving two masters. First of all, power building is a dumb marketing term that somebody came up with. It's stupid. Because every powerlifting program that I've ever done or ever prescribed has had bodybuilding assistance work to continue to build your base of muscle. Of course, if you're just going in and doing squat, bench, deadlift, good luck.
You have to do accessory
Good
muscles
luck.
as well.
But it won't work.
Okay.
It will not. It just doesn't work. So this power building versus a pure powerlifting, I hate it. It's just marketing. It's just marketing.
That's interesting.
Just marketing. Okay, I got a little off track there. Do you have any questions?
So basically what you're saying is he should pick which one matters to him more and mostly do that. But it's okay to do a little bit of, in fact, it's probably beneficial to do a little bit of both.
This is why I love having you on the podcast, because you keep me on track. Yes.
Okay. So pick your favorite.
When you are starting a mesocycle, which is a block of training, usually 4 to 8 weeks before you have to do a deload. And everybody's different, but I'm speaking in general terms. You have to say to yourself, What is my main priority?
What is my goal?
Because as you become more advanced, you will not have the resources to spread across a ton of different goals.
Right. When you're at a high level,
Yeah.
it requires a high amount of effort.
You may have a priority and a secondary, but you're not going to have like, I want to bring up my quads, my glutes, my biceps, my shoulder. It's not going to happen.
No.
Or I want to get strong at the squat, bench, and deadlift all at once.
Pick one.
Probably not going to happen. Again, there are genetic freaks. And if you're newer, then you will experience that. So when you're starting a mesocycle, ask yourself, what can I work on at a maintenance level to maintain where I'm at? And what do I need to really push volume, intensity, relative load to continue to make progress? This is why deloading is also very important, because as you deload, you become resensitized to lower volumes. So a traditional split would start, maybe you do 2 sets of a squat. Week 1. Week 2, you do 3 sets. So your volume has increased. Week 3, maybe you increase the relative intensity. So you go a little bit heavier, maybe 5 or 10 pounds than you had been doing. These are all progressive overload tactics. So you're continuing to make progress. But then by the time you get to like week 6 or 7 and you're doing 6 sets of squats, you're crawling out of the gym. Imagine if you didn't deload at that point.
You would have to keep doing more.
In order to continue to progress, you'd have to keep pumping that volume up. Whereas if you take a proper deload, you resensitize yourself to that volume and you can start back. You keep the load the same, but now you go back down to 2 sets and you are still experiencing progress.
Do you lose a lot of strength on a deload?
Not if you're doing it correctly.
Okay.
So if you're deloading for strength, the principle that I usually do is you just reduce volume, but the intensity stays very similar. So if you ended your volume block with like 3 sets, let's say 4 sets of 5 reps at 80% of your 1 rep max. For your deload session, you'd come in, maybe you'd do 2 sets at 80% of your 1 rep max, or you'd work up to 1 single so that you're still getting touches, right?
So you're still lifting the same amount of weight, you're just doing it less.
Yeah. So volume is one of the bigger drivers of fatigue, which is another thing that a lot of people get wrong, because you'd think if I do 1 rep of a max weight, I'm going to be super fatiguing. Or that's going to be super fatiguing.
So it's better to keep the weight the same, but do less.
No. So, yes, right. So that
when you're deloading,
that 1 rep is not going to be as fatiguing as doing 3x5 with 75%.
I guess that makes more sense when you think about the time.
Yeah.
Of work.
Yeah. Time under tension being like doing
or I'm just
reps.
Thinking time that you're clocking in the gym.
Yeah.
Like it would be more tiring to be in the gym for longer.
Yes.
Even if you're lifting lighter weights, you're still in there longer doing stuff that's hard for longer.
That's another thing that I had this wrong. Like I would always think like, oh, I'm going in for a 1 rep max attempt, but I would go in for a 1 rep max attempt, do 2 other sets of like leg press and leave and be like, I'm going to be so tired tomorrow. Totally fine. Go in for a volume block. It's like, oh, you got 4x6 on the squat. But the weight is like 65, 70%. It's like, I'm going to be so fine. Dead the next day. Dead like toast. So that's something to always keep in mind. Basically, don't get caught up in the marketing of it all, because everybody's trying to sell you something. Yeah. Everybody thinks that they have the way that is going to get you where you want to be.
Yeah.
Not true. Especially if you're buying like a pre-built template. It could work, could not work. Probably not going to work.
It's better to have something personalized to you and your goals.
I think so. And I'm kind of biased towards that because that's what I do for a job. But I have seen incredible results.
But it makes sense, right?
Right. So overall, the difference between power building and powerlifting is nil. It's just marketing. But there will be times when you need to focus more so on hypertrophy, on the building a base, building muscle. And as you're newer, I'd say spending 70% of your time doing that. Like if you're a power lifter and you want to build your 1 rep max strength in the squat, the bench, and the deadlift, doing volume accessory work is going to get you farther than just coming in and maxing out every week. It's just, you're going to kill yourself.
Yeah.
Like you are not going to get stronger doing 1s and 2s. You're going to learn how to get stronger with the muscle that you've built doing 1s and 2s as you get closer to competition.
So basically what you're saying is if you want to get stronger, you build the size of the muscle with hypertrophy.
Yep.
And then you teach that larger muscle how to do all of its work for one big strong lift.
Yes, that is the most basic way you can say it. And obviously there are a lot of different mechanisms working there, but that is the explain it to me like I'm 3 level.
Make muscle big, teach muscle
Strong.
how to lift.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's what's so fun about it is that variety
I never knew that.
keeps things from getting stale.
Yeah. And it's effective.
Yeah.
Which is inherently rewarding.
Yes.
Very interesting.
Dude, don't get me started on programming. I'll talk about programming forever.
Even on a tired day.
Yeah, I love it. This is why I coach. It's
Yeah.
because I love it's
it
a puzzle.
energizes you.
It's a giant puzzle.
You know, it's funny. You were just telling me the other day that you don't like puzzles, but I think you like some forms of puzzles.
I like that. I like that type of puzzle. I just love like being in the trenches with my clients and being like, okay, I'm my volume is really good on my quads, but too much volume on my hamstrings really burns me out. And I'm just like, okay, well, we move this variable and we'll do this and that. And then seeing that physically come to fruition, either on stage as a bodybuilder or in a competition as a powerlifter, nothing like it. It's like all the levers worked. And when it doesn't work, it's like, okay, well, we got to get back in the lab and we got to do this and that.
Yeah.
Beautiful. It's my favorite thing. It's my favorite thing. I like it more than training myself, honestly.
Well, that's really cool.
You know? So yeah, sorry, that was a lot. Hopefully you guys were able to follow that. If not, there's a ton of videos on my channel about the basics of strength training and how to build your first program. I would recommend that you go see that. Or, I mean, it's all on YouTube, dude.
Yeah.
Just Google it.
Call you.
Or yeah, you could call me and I could do all this thinking for you.